Good evening, this is BelGeode, and we are back with some more X-Plane 11. Howdy folks, and we are back with some more X-Plane 11. We're taking it back to where the series all began once more. We are here in Key West. More specifically, we are at Boca Chica Key, the home of the Key West Naval Air Station used by the United States Navy. And tonight, I'm going to be showing you another really awesome bird. Now, I'm sure a couple of weeks ago you probably saw my video in P3D where I was showing off Maryadi's free MV-22B Osprey. That's a tiltrotor, of course. Well, tonight I'm going to be showing off a payware, and this one is by AOA Simulations. Now, if that name sounds vaguely familiar to you, the F-35B that's currently available for X-Plane 11 is also made by AOA Simulations. This is their latest entry into the X-Plane market, and I gotta say I'm in love with this thing already. I've been flying it around all evening, and I figured I might as well take some time and do a little first look video of it, so that way I can show it off to you guys. And we'll see what kind of shenanigans we can get up to around Key West here. Alright, but first things first, we're going to need to get this bird all started up here, so I'm not going to give you like a full and complete tutorial. I'm just going to go through the basics here to get her ready to go, and that way we can get underway. Okay, so first things first, we're going to need some battery power, so let's flick this switch right here, and we also need to push this button. So there we go, we've got electricity, and we can also get our outside lights on. So we've got the nav lights, the landing lights, the beacon, and the tail from left to right. So we're going to start with the nav lights, and we'll also get our beacon up and running. Okay, so we'll save the landing lights and the tail lights for when we're about to taxi and take off and whatnot. Okay, next order of business. See these lovely nacelles and those huge rotor blades? Yeah, we're going to need those vertical. Alright, so these three buttons here are what we're going to use for that, and we have to go from right to left in order to get everything done. It does take about a couple of minutes to get the entire procedure done, so I'm just going to flick it and we'll go back and forth between the outside view and inside view. So let's start with the right button, which will unstow the nacelles, and we'll take a quick look outside. Okay, should be done in a second. When it gets close to the end, it goes a little bit slower than normal. So we'll wait for that nifty sound there to subside. I do notice that the sound is a little bit different than what Maryadi uses in P3D and FSX for his tilt rotor. Honestly, I don't know which is the real sound. I don't think I've ever heard that out of a tilt rotor before, or out of an Osprey, but yeah, we're going to go with what AOA gave us, and we'll continue on. So the next thing, the middle button, that's going to change the tilt of the nacelles. So we're going to have that set up at a 90-degree angle. And then as soon as that's finished, we will unfurl our blades. Let's see how we're doing on this side here. Now you'll notice that they also have like a lot of the machinery in there. Now, just so you're aware, that's not a complete 3D model. It looks more like a picture of it, but suffice to say, it actually looks pretty good how they did that. It looks very realistic, especially here in VR. Alright, we should be done now. So now the leftmost button to unfold the blades, and we'll go outside for that. And you'll notice that those blades have a very wicked angle. It's a twisted blade, so the angle that it's at close to the nacelle itself is completely different from the angle that it has all the way at the rotor tip. But that's what this aircraft needs in order to do what it does. Alright, so now that we've got that all squared away, let's go ahead and turn off our rotor brake, which is the centermost switch here. There we go. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and get our avionics on. Alright, there we go. So we'll take a look at that in a second. I'm going to close our ramp and everything else, so we'll button up everything. That's the upper door. That's the lower door. That's the side door. And that's the top of the side door. Okay, so while that's going on, let me tell you a little bit about what you're seeing here. Now, it should look somewhat familiar to you if you remember the other video. There are some pretty major differences. This is pretty much similar. This is the PFD, so you're used to seeing this. Of course, the left side in red is our airspeed, the right side is our altitude. Right now it looks like the weather is set to 29.89er. You can see we've got our brakes on, our landing gear is down, 3 down and locked. Radar altimeter will show up as well, and our throttle controls currently set to 1%, and that little T will rise and lower as you raise and lower the throttle. Upper left hand corner, of course, is the angle of the nacelles. You can see we're at a 90-degree angle, and it even tells us what the outside air temperature is in Fahrenheit, so 79 degrees. It's Florida. It's March. That sounds about right to me. So the center screen here, the MFD, this is pretty much the standard X-plane map. You've seen it before in a lot of different aircraft. Basically, it just shows you the VORs, the airports, and all that stuff. Nothing really fancy about it, and I haven't found any things that I can do to change it just yet. But then, admittedly, I'm still going through a lot of the manual. Alright, and on the left side you'll see there's another PFD here for the co-pilot, as well as the famous AOA camera. I don't know how they do this, but I really love this camera. It's especially useful when you're doing VTOL operations. If you're flying from the left seat, it'll show you exactly what's below you in real time. They also have this in the F-35, and I think it's like the coolest thing ever. Alright, so we have our autopilot controls up here. We won't be messing with that because I'm going to fly this baby manually. And we have our engine controls at a glance, so it'll tell you what the engines are doing, whether you're overheating or not. Also will tell you what your flaps are set to and your nacelle. Pretty standard stuff. And then we've got the bad mama jamma here. Now, I should caution you that none of this stuff in the center really works. However, this is a multifunction screen here, and right now it's set to the far left button, so it'll show us a lot of information that's very useful. But if we go to the next button over, it will give us our fuel. So pretty straightforward stuff. It'll tell you what's in the tanks, which tank has what, so on and so forth. Moving over to the right, we've got the status button, which will tell us what's going on with the nacelles, with the flaps, with the trim, and of course, what lights are on. You'll notice that I've got a couple of red flashing lights. That's our beacon lights that I just turned on earlier. The next screen is the ICAS. This is what I usually set it on whenever I'm flying, because that way I can see at a glance if everything's in the red or not. And there's even a little map. I haven't quite figured out this map, and I'm not quite sure how to feel about this map, but it's there if we need it. And then the last thing is something that should look familiar to you, especially if you do a lot of the airliners. This is, of course, the FMC. Now, I should caution you, this is the standard X-plane FMC. There is nothing spectacular about it. But presumably, if you click on the center screen, it'll pop up the actual FMC for you so that you can program in your flight plan and all of that. This thing does not have a standard GPS in it. Alright, so I'm going to put it back to ICAS, so that way we can get ready to get everything started up here. Okay, one thing I will want to do, you see on the left hand side where it says tilt, trim, and flap. Now, those are currently set to manual, which is why they're in white. If I were to click on, say, trim and push the button, Now the trim will be automatically controlled by the tilt rotor, and I can do the same thing for the flaps as well too. So you'll notice that it just lowered the flaps all the way full, which is the way that they would be if this thing was in the 90-degree position. And it'll help us as far as our flying. So it'll give you little tips and tricks here and there. However, do not let it fool you. This thing can still kill you if you are not wary about what you're doing. Alright, but I think we've got everything set, and at the bottom it says what our load is. Right now we don't have any cargo, even though there is a depiction of cargo in the back. Alright, but we need to start some engines, so let's go ahead and do that. First we need fuel, so we'll flip this switch here. And I should point out that in P3D FSX, the tilt rotor there, these FADEC buttons, as well as the middle button, the interim power, those do work. However, here in X-Plane, AOA did not make these available to work. So pretty much all we need to do to start up is just flip those two levers to the forward position. And I will remind you that since this is a tilt rotor, either engine can operate both of the rotors. So let's go ahead and start with the right engine first. Actually, you know what? No, let's start with the left engine. I think that's how they do it in real life. So we'll hold that down. There we go. Rotors are turning. We'll watch our engine gauges, make sure that our N1 and everything comes up. There we go. Start engine 2, it says. So we'll go ahead and get that on. There we go. Engine 2 is coming up, and you can see everything changing from yellow to green. So pretty soon we'll have full power on the rotors, so we'll go outside and make sure that that happens. Alright, so it looks like we've got a good start on both engines, and the gearbox is keeping everything running fine. So we're pretty much set to go. The only other things that we're going to need to do is turn on the rest of lights. So we'll get that second switch, which will be our landing light switch, and we'll get our tail lights on. And there we go. Believe it or not, that's it. That's everything we need to do to get this thing started. Now, I believe the winds have died down a little bit. They were blowing from the west to the east, but being that they have died down, I'm going to go ahead and take off vertically. We'll take a quick look around the airbase, and then we'll see if we can get into some shenanigans. Alrighty, folks. I hope you're strapped in, because we are taking off. Let's give it a little bit of throttle here. You can see the little T rising on the left-hand side. When we get up to about 90% throttle, this thing should be really light on its wheels and should be getting ready to take off. We'll keep our parking brakes on since we're going straight up. There we go, 87. Yep, I can feel her getting light. And we'll bring it up to about 95%. There we go, just like that, we're up. Alright, let's see if we can avoid these trees here. So I'm going to tilt the nose up a little bit. And since our nacelles are pointing straight up, it'll work just like a helicopter. We've also got to keep an eye on those engines, and if you look on the far left side, you'll see what I was telling you about our vertical camera. So yeah, that comes in real handy when you have to like land on a carrier or something like that. Alright, let's go ahead and give it a little bit of rudder. We'll turn around. You'll notice the little yellow needle-shaped icon. That is, of course, our vertical velocity vector. So that'll change as I raise and lower the throttle, and that's pretty much all we need to do in order to take off. It's very similar to the Collective, except it's more of a throttle since this thing does have the capability to fly like an aircraft. Alright, let's straighten up here. and I think I see my first target. Yeah, that will do nicely. Well, I don't know about you folks, but I think my crew chief needs to use the bathroom, and unfortunately, since we're already airborne, we're going to have to pay a visit to this yacht. So let's push it forward a bit. We're already at 610 feet above sea level. So we'll start bringing her down a little bit. You'll notice that everything's in the minus on the right-hand side. That is our feet per second as we're coming down. Vortex ring state is a real thing with this, and it will kill you if you do not pay close attention to what you're doing. So you kind of want to keep your vertical speed no more than about 500 feet per minute. And I'm actually going to tilt the nose up so that we can lose a bit more forward airspeed. Because when you're coming in on approach with this thing, even if you're doing a vertical landing, they do not recommend that you just come straight down. They recommend that you come in like an approach, basically. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep it between about 300 and 400-ish feet per minute. See if I can get visual on our little yacht there. This is going to be interesting. Now you'll also notice that little arrow on the left side there, that's our wind direction and wind speed, so that may play a factor. Right now it's at 11 knots, which is not too bad, but we're going to have to compensate for it on our way in. Okay, now comes the fun part. We'll see if we can get this bird on the deck. This is going to be interesting because, of course, we've got ground effect modeled in this, which, of course, means that as soon as we get close to any hard surface, the air that's currently blowing down will cause us to bubble up. So, yeah, this could get real interesting. Alright, let's take a quick look from the outside, see how we're lined up. Almost there. We just need to push a little bit more forward. Alright, right there should be good. Come on, baby. Okay. And we're down. So not exactly my best landing, but hey, we did make it on the boat. So now our crew chief can go ask the owner of this yacht if he can use the bathroom. Okay, so now that our crew chief has gone and used this gentleman's bathroom, our next task is to find someplace else to land. And I'm thinking I probably don't want to land on that yacht, because now that that guy has seen us land on this yacht, yeah, it's probably not going to end well for us. I've never noticed those hot air balloons over there before. It looks like they're apparently going snorkeling by balloon. I have no clue what's going on over there, but I think we're about set to go, and I'm pretty sure there's an oil rig just off the south shore of Key West, so we're going to see if we can find it. First things first, though, I'm going to put my nacelles back a little bit. So 97 degrees is the maximum that it can go. And we'll go ahead and get out of here. Let's put the parking brakes back on. Nice smooth movement. There we go. Alrighty, Thurs. Thank you for the use of your yacht. We appreciate it. And I'm going to get the gear up this time. That'll also make our little camera go away. Okay, so now that we're where we need to be, let's see if we can start pulling the nacelles forward and get some forward airspeed. There we go. And a lot of the rules that you would use if you were in P3D still apply. So you don't want to bring the nacelles down too soon, otherwise you will fall out of the sky. You got to be cognizant of your speeds and so on and so forth. Alright, so here we are over beautiful Key West. We're approaching Key West International Airport, dead ahead. You can see the cruise liner way on the other side of Key West, over by Mallory Square and all those areas. And I want to say that our oil rig should be somewhere off in that direction, except I don't remember how far out it is. So we'll pass the airport here, we'll go down to the southernmost point, and then we'll hang a left. See if we can spot it out to sea there. You will notice that our camera has now changed to a forward-looking camera, which is pretty cool. I believe there is a way to turn that off. I just haven't figured out how to do that yet. I really need to, you know, sit down and read through all of the aspects of the manual. My big thing was I just wanted to fly it. Alright, it's good old Key West. I can't get enough of this place, folks, I'm telling you. Okay, southernmost point should be coming up. Yep, there it is. Alright, so that's where we are going to make our slight left turn, and I do believe that is our oil rig. Alright, cool beans. So, just like before, we're going to gain a little bit of altitude here. And we need to bring the power back all the way, because you definitely do not want to try and put these nacelles back to the vertical position while you're going over 200 knots. It just will not work that way. We also have to be conscious of the wind direction, so this is the direction we're probably going to want to land in. You can see we've got a 10-knot headwind right now. I'm trying to look over the dash to see where our rig is in relation to where we are. Okay, so once we get down to about 160, we can start moving the nacelles. They will not move if you try to move it before that time. And I'm thinking we may need to go and do a downwind leg here on this thing. Yep, probably a good idea. So there it is, folks. What do you think? Think I can do a better job than on that yacht? I'd say we're about to find out. I love the visibility in this thing as well. It's just awesome. Okay, so we'll do our downwind here, and we'll try to slow down enough. We also have to be careful as the nacelles make their way to the vertical position. We're not going to be able to rely on rolling, banking, like we did just now. Instead, we're going to rely on the rudder more than anything else. Alright, so we're going to keep a nose-high attitude and drop the power. Okay, we're just below 160, so we'll start moving the nacelles up. We'll get it to about a little over 20 degrees. We'll start using the rudder to help us turn. Okay, there's our oil rig. And we're going to need to put some throttle back in there, otherwise we're going to fall out of the sky. sky. This is definitely not FSX, that is for sure. Alright, let's get our gear down while I'm thinking about it. A little bit of right rudder. And we'll get the nacelles to about 80 degrees. There we go. We should also be having auto trim and auto flaps action. And there's that vortex ring state I was telling you about. We've got to be so careful with. So there you go. That's a good example of vortex ring state. Alright, I think we've got her under control, so we just need to turn ourselves in the proper direction, and we'll continue our approach. Okay, the wind is saying that we need to land in this direction here. So let's give it a little bit more nacelle action. 85 degrees should be fine. Alright, this may get a little bit trickier, so let's see how we're lining up outside. Alright, we're going to put it to a little past the 90 degrees. Okay, right there's what we want, so now we can begin our forward progress. Tilt her down a bit, and this could take a little while for us to get in. But you definitely want to land into the wind. If you do not do that, it could end badly for you. Right now, it could end badly for me. And I do have to say, this thing's a little bit easier to do in VR, but that does not mean that this is a cakewalk. Still takes a very light touch. Alright, a little bit more forward. I'm looking for that red circle. Come on, baby. No swinging side to side. That would be bad. And there's that ground effect again. Alright, let's stabilize here. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Okay. Whew. So obviously it's still going to take me a little bit to get the hang of this, but this is only like my third or fourth flight with this thing tonight only. It handles very differently from the FSX P3D version. However, with that having been said, I'm really glad that AOA Simulations brought this aircraft to X-Plane, because with the physics that X-Plane models, this is probably as close as we're going to get to the real thing. I don't see any time in the near future DCS World getting an MV-22, so be that as it may, I'll take it. I will definitely take it. All right, let's take a quick look outside, and then we'll head back to shore. Alrighty folks, I hope you are ready because we are going to get back to Key West, and I think for our final act today what we'll do is we'll come in on a conventional approach. So just to kind of set it up here, the nacelles are going to go down to about 60 degrees and we're just going to basically do a rolling stop. Okay, but let me get our brakes off here. Okay, and we're going to flip the nacelles all the way back because it's always better to back up while you're coming off of something like this. Looks like we've got a few obstacles up front, so yeah, we don't want to do that. Alright, and if you are ready, I am ready. Let's do this. Coming up to 90%. There we go. Nice smooth transition. Pull the nose back a touch. We can get our gear up. You can see the lack of ground effect caused us to dip a little bit. So there we go, folks. Say goodbye to the oil rig. And we'll make our way back to Key West. Alright, let's tip the nose up a little, and we'll get our nacelles tilted forward. There we go, our pipper's coming back to center. And how are we doing on flaps? Flaps are coming up automatically, perfectly. Okay, good deal. And nacelles down to 0. Outstanding. Oh wow, I never really noticed those holes in there before. That's pretty interesting. Alright, so we're going to swing her around here. You can see the dry Tortugas off in a distance. And Key West should be right about there coming into my field of view right now. Okay, so we are at about 2,500 feet off the deck. So we're going to make our way towards Key West. And of course, you knew it had to be done. Just like I did in the P3D video. Let's see if we can do some funky shenanigans with this tilt rotor. Not too shabby. I knew it could be done. So that was awesome. I love that. Alright, we're still going to need to figure out which runway we're coming in on. It looks like it's still coming basically from this direction, so I'm thinking we're going to have to pass up Boca Chica and then come in the opposite way. So we'll kind of hit the deck here and check out Key West real quick. We'll buzz the town. In case you haven't figured, folks, I fly everything like it's a fighter jet. Alright, we are going to buzz the tower, Goose. Why not? We're pretty much at our top speed here, just shy of about 300 knots. And there we go. Howdy! I hope they don't have any coffee. Okay, so there's runway 7, and I'm thinking we're going to need to come in on the opposite runway, so that would be runway 25. So we'll start slowing down here, and we'll get ourselves back up to about 100 feet. And then that'll be it for our shenanigans for the day. I think we've caused enough mayhem around Key West. So I sincerely hope that you're enjoying this aircraft. It costs about $32 on the .org website. It's not that often that I will highly recommend something, but this one I definitely highly recommend. I'm having so much fun with this, and I've barely scratched the surface on all the things that it can do. My next task is going to be to complete my reading of the manual and figure out some of the other features that this thing has. Oh, look at that. I didn't notice that before. It actually says it's in airplane mode now. That's pretty cool. Alright, so we're going to go out past the edge of the island here, and then we'll make our turn to final, get into landing configuration, and get on the deck. Okay, there's the end of the key, so we'll make our left turn here. And we'll start getting those nacelles up. Quite a base leg. Should have been paying more attention to the direction which I was traveling. But let's get our gear down. And I believe our brakes should be off, so yes, we should be able to do this. I believe we're a little too high up, but that's okay. I'm going to drop our power a little bit while I get our nacelles up to 60 degrees. So we're a little high of glide slope, but it still should be good. We're coming down at a pretty decent clip, however. So I'm probably going to want to trim us up a touch. We'll drop our airspeed. Since this is a tilt rotor, glide slope is not as critical, I guess you would say. I mean, it's not like we can't stop on a dime anyway. Alright, but here we go. We are coming in. I'm going to take it to about half the runway length. And we'll bring her down. Right here should be good. And we'll try not to flare. There we go. Okay, so we are down. We're still going pretty fast, but in order to slow us down, the easiest thing to do is just going to be to raise the nacelles. But I'll keep it like this because I know that our turn-off is going to be coming relatively soon, and that's what we're going to be taking to get back to our helicopter pad. So there you go, folks. I sincerely hope that you have enjoyed this first look at AOA Simulations MV-22 Bravo Osprey tilt rotor. It's kind of a mouthful to say, but let me tell you, it is worth it. I love this thing. Absolutely love this thing. I've been waiting for a really good tilt rotor to come to X-Plane for quite some time. I know that they had one a couple of versions ago. It really wasn't all that spectacular, but I'm glad that AOA took up the mantle and got this done because they have done an absolutely phenomenal job on this thing. In my opinion, they have knocked it out of the park. So like I said, it's not that often that I will hands down recommend something. But yeah, this one you're going to want to pick up. This is awesome. Especially if you love vertical takeoff and landing. Okay, but I do believe this is our exit coming up here. So let's see if we can get the nacelles up a bit more. 70 degrees should be just about right. And we'll taxi to parking. Ground handling on this thing is just so smooth. It's awesome. I love it. Alright, let's pull our nacelles up a little bit more. Get it to about 80%. That'll slow us down. And here's our parking spot, number 2. Alright, throttle to idle. And we'll roll to a stop. There we go. Parking brakes are on. We are home. So let's go ahead and get our nacelles back to 90, because we're going to want to turn everything off and fold everything up. Right there. Oh, I had it. This thing is so sensitive. Incidentally, there is a back cabin to this. I'll show it to you in a second, but there's really not much to it. That's probably the only thing that I would take any kind of points off in this tilt rotor. Let's go back there for a second. But yeah, this is the back. You can see we've got a couple of cargo crates, and everything else is pretty much a picture painted on a 3D model. So honestly, if this is the worst thing that I can say about this tilt rotor, I still say that AOA knocked it out of the park. Pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. All right, let's go ahead and turn everything off, and then I'll tell you all goodbye. Okay, so our shutdown procedure in this thing is going to be relatively simple. The first thing we're going to want to do is cut the fuel. And once the fuel's been cut, the 2 levers move all the way back to their starting position. That's pretty much it. And for some strange reason, it looks like this light went off, but that's okay because I'm going to turn everything else off. I'm guessing that the landing lights are somehow connected with the gear, because I know I had them on when we took off. Alright, so we'll wait for everything to come to a full stop here as everything spools down, and then we'll apply the rotor brake, and we'll do exactly the opposite of what we did to get everything set up. So while that's happening, I would like to thank you, as always, for watching. This has been BelGeode. I have been flying in X-Plane 11, and I have been in the AOA Simulations MV-22 Bravo Osprey. So yes, the pride and joy of the United States Marine Corps, a vehicle that in real life has been fraught with all kinds of problems, but still it does not detract from the uniqueness and the sheer awesome factor of this vehicle. Excellent job, AOA Simulations. You did an outstanding job. You are to X-Plane what Maryadi is to P3D and FSX. So yes, definitely go ahead and pick this up if you are so inclined. And of course, if you enjoy what you've seen, please feel free to give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I will catch you on the next X-Plane episode, where we're going to go to another part of the world, since I'm sure by now you're probably all tired of seeing Key West. Alrighty, folks. Hope you all have a great evening, and I will catch you on the next one. Ciao!